Hello everyone, my name is Julian Camarena.
And I'm Adrian Camarena.
And we are here with our very special guest and arguably the most well-dressed audio engineer in the business.
I get that all the time.
Irko Sera. He's a multi-platinum engineer. He's worked with Kid Cudi, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, just to name a few, Pitbull. So we're very excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So a lot of people don't know this, but there's a process when it comes to making music. You know, you start off with the songwriting, get into the production, the recording, and then there's the mixing process. That's it.
So what is the mixing process for some of us that might not know exactly what that is?
So the first step that we were talking about is creating the song, right? Somebody sits down with the guitar, creates the harmony, the lyrics, whatever. That's the first step. Second step is this creation has to be captured in a recording studio. That's a recording session. That's when the song is being recorded. And then the third step is when the song gets placed in its final shape, which is eventually what's gonna be featured on the radio, on the album, whatever the case may be, right? So that's one way to explain it. Another way to explain it is if you imagine those before and after Photoshop of the hot model, right? She's beautiful before and after, but after she's perfect, right?
What sort of music did you typically work on when you first started mixing?
I grew up listening to hip hop music. That's how I learned English, funny enough. And my dream was always to go to New York and work with the big rappers that I grew up listening to.
You started off as a disc jockey, right?
Yeah,
Spinning records?
I DJ'd, you know, produced with the MPC, you know, all of that stuff.
So, you started in the hip hop world. You're used to being around rappers with chains and baggy clothes. How did you come up with this look?
It's funny, right? Like with the bow ties and everything. You know, so I actually started with wearing all of that stuff, all the FUBU stuff, the do-rags and stuff. Total, like if
We'll have to get a picture of that.
Yeah, no, if you dig deep enough on my Instagram feed, you will see some pictures that I will post, like, you know, a TBT, like wearing do-rags and stuff.
And I love your tie, by the way.
Thanks, man, thanks.
It's got a wooden bow tie.
Yeah.
The bow tie thing started because I started a YouTube channel years ago, and one of the first things that I would do would be to film with my GoPro strapped on my chest. And at the time I was wearing regular ties that it was already like switched to a more of an Italian look, I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, wearing the bow tie, I couldn't do the GoPro thing, right? So I was like, oh, maybe I can do a bow tie. And I tried it, and on my way to the studio that one time, this was in New York, I got stopped by two ladies commenting positively on my bow tie. I'm like, oh, the ladies like that. All right.
What got you inspired to do videos? Because it's not like you set it up on a tripod and you do your thing. You actually put effort into it and editing it, which most people don't do. What really got you into doing that?
The idea was to kind of open a virtual window into the recording studio.
It's great. So in the show, you kind of get sort of, and you've done some sort of like point of view from the mixing engineer, which is kind of cool. So you get to see him moving, you know, if he's working on a console, you get to see him moving the faders and stuff. And a lot of people, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, I don't think a lot of people really got a chance to sort of see behind the scenes of making music. So now a lot of people, and now that gets a lot of people interested in making music. So when you first started getting into these studios with these, you know, these big guys that are out there and established and stuff, were you a little bit nerve-wracked?
A little bit
nerve-wracking when you first
He said a little bit. I was, still to this day, you know, when I get in the studio with the guys that I grew up listening to, it's like, oh my God, this is the guy that I was listening to while I was cutting my dad's grass or something, you know?
So real quick, we're gonna go and Irko's gonna explain sort of what some of the tools that we use to mix and to engineer.
Let's do it.
We're gonna have Irko explain to Adrian
Okay.
exactly what an equalizer is,
Okay.
and then let's see if he can kind of repeat it back to us afterwards.
This should be a lot easier. So if you think of any song, you will have a lot of high-end information. The sounds that are like the hi-hat or like crashes, that kind of stuff. And then you have the middle part, that's where the piano lives or the guitars live or the vocal, that's the middle part. And then you have the low end, right? The bass, the stuff that gets your trunk to rattle, you know, that's, okay. So what an equalizer does is it interacts with every one of these three bands in different ways. So if I wanna have more high-end information, I will crank a knob like this and go to a place where we can have more of the higher frequency intensity, okay? And of course, this is a very elaborate one where you can set exactly where and how big of a range you wanna interact with, and then how much of that boost or cut you want, right? And it's the same thing for every other band. So this is kind of like a simple way to explain it. In other words, we're trying to change the content, the characteristic of the audio by boosting or lowering parts of it.
Can you sort of explain that, Irko?
Okay,
Just taught you.
So from what I understand, that Irko said is pretty much there's different ranges in songs or music. You know, you get the higher, the clashing, you got the kind of the mid range, which is, you know, the vocals or the piano, and then you have the, I guess, the low bass, the boom boom part. And pretty much those knobs just tweak it and vary the different ranges in different ways. And so far, that's about as much as I've had.
Pretty good.
That's what it is.
That
Bass.
is why Irko's a master at teaching.
Yeah, I guess. It's simple. Bass, more or less. Mids, more or less. Highs, more or less.
So Adrian was asking you, like, you know, which one of these is your favorite or whatever, and then you were sort of explaining to him.
Yeah, there is no favorite. It depends. This is kind of like a toolbox with different tools that I know that I can use whenever I'm in need. And so, for example, this tool will be used on some applications, and this one will be used on other applications. So it's a matter of, you know, spending time with these and getting to learn them. And when you know the tools, then you can apply or use that tool for a specific task, so that you're using the best tool available to you.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. It was
Thank you.
It was educational. It was fun hanging out with you.
Of course.
And until next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye guys. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Camarena Show.
And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single episode.